whether it's in Denver and DC, you've got to go get in front of those people. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, they're engineers. And as much as you indicated that all the additional information that we put together matters, I don't believe it does. I honestly don't think they give two hoots about whether you sold 1 or 10 million.
Well,
They
they're
don't.
supposed to, but they're trying
They
to
don't.
ignore it.
They don't, Roger.
They're
They don't.
legally
They didn't. I
supposed
mean,
to.
they didn't. They never even looked at a really, really high-level, high-tech presentation we put together. Was never even
But
opened.
you know, the fact you had it, well, if the examiner sees, oh, this is a real product and it's really being sold and people are using it, you know, I think it gives it more gravitas.
I had to take my stuff
You know,
off the
they're gonna
desk,
take it more seriously.
Roger.
and
I had to take all this off the desk. It wasn't even.
That's okay. I mean, the more you got, the better, I think.
Does that also help kind of pinpoint the time if there was somebody who is somewhere in the process that had something similar, which you obviously can't see because it's still in the approval process?
You can do it any time after your first office action.
Okay.
So it could be years later even. But really, like, let's say you have commercial success with the product over the patent tendency. What we really have to show is that success, the customers are buying the product because of something in one of our claims in the patent. That's the time.
Okay.
I would tell you that his side of the fence and mine are different. And my experience level with it is altogether on the side of the guy that's writing all the money and paying all the checks. And another add-on to that whole scenario is we set that whole thing in motion for an appointment, bought airline tickets, cast in stone that couldn't be reimbursed or rescheduled, and the examiner himself canceled the meeting a day and a half before it was supposed to occur.
So I had a little tip with the examiner. That's the only time that's happened to me. And I thought, when we're not getting off on a good.
So how did you get him changed? You had to pay?
He had to we moved it out of what, a month?
We had to reschedule.
Reschedule.
They didn't get. They
Made it
couldn't have cared
non-refundable.
less. It didn't even matter. They never even began to apologize. They just, here we are. You are dealing with the United States government. It is a bureaucracy. It is engineering. It is people that don't speak your language and don't go unprepared. I mean, take a guy in that's if Roger wasn't an engineer and hadn't been on the speakerphone, I'd have been sunk. Because they got into stuff that was so technical that I could not answer their questions.
I mean, the thing is, there's 15,000 of them, so some of them like interviewing inventors, and other ones, they don't want to. They don't want to see
People.
And so, you know, it's a little bit of a luck of a draw. You file, and some examiners are very pro in there. They'll slam things to help you. And other ones are anti-inventor. They love to just reject, you know. And I feel sorry for clients because I've gotten some things that I was a little worried about. Man, they got a patent, and other things I thought were more certain and have struggled with. So there's a psychology.
There's a lot to it, and
Yeah.
unfortunately for most of us, if you're going to follow along the lines of getting a patent, more than likely you're going to be there, because I think it's not going to get easier, it's going to get tougher. The patent process is not meant to be one that's simple, and the stuff they threw at me as to the reasons why they wouldn't issue a patent were almost, I mean, they are so pro to being covering their tails that getting the patent issued is almost like, you know, if we really think that we won't get in trouble here, well, we might give you a patent. But if there's even a shred of doubt, well, we're going to reject it, come back with some more claims. You know, in the middle of it, the guy was, so how much have you spent on legal fees? And I said, where does that weigh into this?
What was his answer?
He didn't give me an answer. And so if I spent like 10,000 or 10 million, what difference does it make? So it was a colorful experience for me. As Roger said, I kept my cool, but I did lose it once or twice. I gave him back at the very end. I said, you know what, you guys this is a joke. This is, you know, we're creating an entity, a business, a manufacturing concern. We're hiring people to go to work. We're making the American dream possible, and you're sitting here throwing this kind of crap in my face. And I did. That was, of course, after he canceled my visit and with no notice and lost their airline ticket. So whether it helped or hindered, I don't know. But I guess you go there with your best intentions and put what you got on the table and see what happens. But it's not an easy or a likely outcome. You have no way of knowing whether you're going to. And we don't right now, do we, Roger?
Well, I think we're a lot more focused.
Did you ever get any answer?
Not yet.
You didn't even bother
I would
email
say
back
it
saying
take
thanks
about
for the
4
submittal,
months.
or
Huh?
you're going to email back saying thank you for sending your document?
Well, yeah, from their cloud computer I
Thank you for the form, we haven't received it.
If you want to know how silly it is, and I'm not anti-government, but they wouldn't give me a business card.
Really? They don't want you calling them.
No.
I think it's the one on.
I said, can I have your contact information? He says, no, we don't
Yeah,
do
so
that.
just
I said, what?
There you go.
What? They won't give you their contact
Are you
information.
gonna tell us about your product or your business or
Sure.
sales?
Well, Roger's emphasis was to I'll be glad to help your kids
Okay.
out, was to focus on the experience in the office, and I think I've covered what I went
Sounds
through.
like you were
And
pretty frustrated.
but basically, what we did was come up with a product it's a niche product. It's meant for the recreational vehicle industry. I don't know if you folks have any experience, if any have motorhomes or travel trailers or ever rented or been in one, but ours are convenience items specific to that industry. And we target that niche, and that's the only place that we sell currently. And they're lift kits for doors. They provide convenient access to outside baggage doors and compartment doors of RVs that currently you'd have no ability to hold the doors open. So getting in and out of those doors is cumbersome, it's a pain, and people that travel really use them just like you would at home when you go to your garage or your storage to get out your tools. Those compartments in an RV are like where you live, especially for the guys. And the wives store stuff, but you'll find that an awful lot of it is just the everyday stuff that you use when you camp. So we developed and came up with a system where we allow the ability to put lift systems on doors that are foam core, they're non-structural. And I'm sorry if I am speaking a language that may not help your kids understand, but basically right now that wasn't an option until we came up with this system. And we filed the patent, 2.5 years ago, the application. And once we got to patent pending status, we took it to market. We were lucky. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Camping World.
Mhm.
Camping World is they're the only major retailer on the planet in the United States that caters only to RVs. They have nationwide presence, and we got in their system, and we're selling in all their stores in the United States. We've branched out, and we're selling in all the independent dealer markets, and we have a distributor in Canada. So we're growing, we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and hopefully we'll get at some point in time where our final stage will be either emerging or being bought out by one of the major players in the industry. We've expanded our line with other products that do similar things, that are also niche products that aren't available in the industry, that are just stuff that I'm a camper. I have an RV, and the things that frustrate me that I don't see as being available, we kind of make sure that there's something we can maybe get a patent on, and we add those to the mix. So where we're at in terms of our process and where we're at in terms of our structure, we're manufacturing locally. We're still doing it in the United States. Our components come from everywhere. We're trying to follow a course of action, which is a 3 to 5 year plan, where our exit strategy is we sell out and hopefully make enough money to justify the venture. And my day job was as a contractor and a builder, and I still do that maybe 20% of the time, but this has become pretty cumbersome, and I'm managing it. I'm by myself. I have a full-time employee, I have a bookkeeper, and a part-time guy that fills in occasionally.
What kind of sales have you seen?
In terms of dollar or volume?
Just volume?
Volume in 2.5 years, we're approaching about 12,000 units.
Good.
So this year we'll probably do another 6,000 units, somewhere in that nature. 30% or so of our business is e-commerce. 40-50% is direct to the major retailer, and another 30 to 40% is through a major distributor that sells 3-step, so we were dealing with a volume growth issue that is killing us because our prices are pretty low to be able to sell in a 2-step distribution. For those that don't know what 2-step distribution is, if you have that kind of an industry, when you sell into distribution, normally the distributor gets a percentage, he sells to a dealer that gets a percentage, and that goes to the retailer. So, but by the time you back all those margins off, the manufacturer's not left with much to cover the cost. So if you're not selling volume, you're not going to make it. So
How do you handle like price parity? Like, I'm a customer and I see you online, I can buy direct, or I can buy to the retailer. I mean, are the
they call it a
prices
map. It's a minimum asking price, and we put out a map to everybody that we deal with. Here's our minimum asking price. It's our retail price. It's on the internet. If you cut it and you cut it down, I can't control that. I mean, there's no law that says they can sell it for whatever they want to. Camping World is looked at as being an evil person in the industry because they always have the lowest product with the lowest profit margin, and most of the dealers in the United States don't like that company. But I can't tell them what to sell for no more than I can tell a dealer what to sell for. So
I actually thought you could with MAP, for minimum advertised price, I thought you could say that you can't advertise it for less than this, and if you do, then you're not authorized to sell our
Right.
product.
Price fixing.
You
But-
gotta be careful on
yeah.
price fixing. Not that I'm an expert in that area,
but they can discount.
they can say a, what do they call it, MSR,
Right.
manufacturer suggested retail price.
The company I used to work for, actually, they're enacting minimally advertised price next month, I think, actually, at the end of
But
July.
it's tricky when you're selling at different outlets, or like you see in clothing a lot, like there'll be the direct store for a company.
Right.
And that same
that
brand
way.
will be sold at one of the
Mhm.
bigger retailers. And it's like, you can't let the price, go too far off, because then everyone will go buy it from one and not the other.
Yeah, to your question, if you'd asked me how we managed it in the different venues that we were selling our products, we sold caulk and stains. We had different price sheets for different arms of distribution. So with the design that at the end game, wherever it reaches the end consumer, that price point was gonna be pretty much at parity. So if it was 1-step, if we're selling to Amazon, I charged Amazon a higher price than I would charge a distributor who would be selling to somebody who would be competing with Amazon.
Yeah, cause the distributor and retailer are gonna have to make their markup.
Right.
And then you just kind of assume what their markups are gonna be and normalize that to where you think it's gonna come out of
Yeah.
the end game.
What's the markup for your distributors? It's not very much, is it?
Well, there's a difference between markup and gross margin. And the two are, a lot of folks don't understand the difference, and I can't explain it. I'm not that good at it, but a gross margin is what a manufacturer operates off of. And gross margin dollars for us is something that we structure for the tiers, so distribution, dealer, direct. And normally those gross margins usually fluctuate somewhere in the vicinity of 25 to 35% per step,
It depends a lot on the product category.
or where you're selling.
Yeah,
Doesn't a retailer want a higher margin than the distributor?
Everybody wants everything. Everybody.
Everybody wants the highest
Everybody
margin they
everybody
can
wants you to
possibly
just to give it
get.
to them, but you know, there's no easy way to structure a price tier category without figuring out your costs and figuring out what you have to do per step to be able to stay alive and setting a price tier and going for it. And then you don't argue, you don't give anybody any special deals, you just, here's our price. And I find that's pretty typical in a lot of industries. Distribution pricing is X, and unless you're Walmart or a huge concern, and even that's like, you're really muddying the water, but they say be careful what you ask for. I mean, if Walmart knocked on our door tomorrow and wanted to buy us out in terms of volume, they could do it, but it'd probably bury us. And the margin would be so low, and then if the volumes didn't work, and you get into buyback agreements and guaranteed sales and so many things that really just, it's a huge challenge every day to deal with having to sell at levels, and it's tough. And I don't have any ready answers. I don't know whether we structure according to anybody's proper method of doing it. I mean, you do it based upon what it takes for you to survive, and I don't know, people
How
say.
about Camping World, do they require, as you, you're a small manufacturer, that you have certain manufacturing quantities available, or they won't do business with you? How do they work that with you?
No, I think it's just performance. It's being able to make sure when they place an order that you fill it, and then if it goes beyond whatever you agreed with. I mean, where companies like that kill you is they come at you with co-op dollars. Where here we want that's
Oh, I know,
Well,
I
we-
d-
we-
really.
yeah.
I mean, it really
Very
is.
familiar with those.
It's an unbelievable situation where somebody like that says, well, this year your co-op is 4%, and what do we get for that? Well, that's to help us open new stores. Well, what ads? Well, no, it doesn't cover ads. What does it cover? Well, it's just to help us. And then they come back and 3 months later, so we're going to increase your co-op to 6. Well, what's that get us? Well, just to help us. What are you doing for us? So, and it's the same across the board. Everybody comes up with these ridiculous numbers of co-op figures and mandatory trade show attendance and things that just drives you nuts. But that's how they stay in business. Most of your distribution channels in the United States aren't really distributors or magazine publishers, because what they do is they publish a magazine and send it out to all the people that sell stuff to, and their salespeople don't do a damn thing. I mean, they've got this is one of the main distributors of products for RV, or one of the main distributors in the United States. There's like 600 pages in here, and they have 14 salespeople selling to 4,000 dealers out of this catalog. So we get to pay for this catalog. We get to, which is an insane amount of money that we have to in order to be in here, and our ads are tiny. So there's a lot of, you can take a look if you want to. There's a lot of things about selling that you get an invention, think, well, I'm ready to go. Let's have at it. And man, then the reality hits. I mean, if you're going to manufacture, produce, and distributor, you really need to have like a lot of money, which I don't have, or you need to have like a lot of partners that can help spread this deal, or like he said, something that you put together and market it and sell it out to a distributor, or hopefully somebody will license it. One of the things we had first considered was a licensing. We're going to license this product. Good luck. I mean, licensing is a very, very highly technical, very legal, very structured situation where you really need to go down to 17th Street in Denver and pad the pockets of a lawyer down there that has got a lot of dough and a lot of contacts. And that's the only way you're going to play that game. Once you get established, if we can make it another year and a half and grow to a certain volume and we get our patents issued, we can look into doing some of those things as well.
One thing though, when you're dealing with distributors, and if it's a large market like hardware stores, you're going to find there's always a distributor who their whole model is price. So they're scrunching the margins, which is painful for everybody else who's doing it. But they'll give you their vendor contract, and it's pages, and it talks about things like, how quickly you have to fulfill the order, and it talks about the co-op dollars that you have to pay. And when you're looking at that contract, in most cases, you can negotiate those terms. So I've negotiated co-op dollars down, and I've also negotiated terms into co-op, which is, yeah, we'll do co-op, but the co-op dollars have to be spent on this kind of activity. You have to show us proof before we'll actually pay you, or it has to talk not just about, our product name or the logo, but it has to talk about the product benefits. And so I'd really encourage anybody who's dealing with vendors like that. The buyers have surprising amount of power and ability to adjust the terms. So the other thing that you can do, I did this actually when I was selling, we used to sell it on Amazon as a merchant, basically just using them to fulfill our stuff and using their website, and then they contacted us, we sold them directly. I had so much percentage of sales that I could give away, and they wanted, let's call it 10%, and say they wanted 16% in fees. And got them knocked down to about 12%, and then I just told her, look, I need another 2% off. I don't care if you take it off of, our damage allowance, or if you take it off of co-op, but I need to get this down to, actually I think I got it down to what, like 8 or something. Don't just assume because they're huge and you just really want to be there that they can't give and take. And a lot of that too, just like any other aspect of business, less so than with the government, I'm sure, is that personal relationship. If you're friendly, if they like you, they can make some concessions for you that'll last for years and years and years.
How many RVs are there that would use
Majority
this?
of the market is United States driven. There's about 8 million on the road today, and out of that 8 million, I'd would say perhaps we're replenishing or adding to that at the rate between 250 to 400,000 units per year, spread amongst 4 categories, which are really driven based on the cost of fuel. And when the cost of fuel was pretty low, we saw an awful lot of the motorhome type units, and then as fuel got expensive, that switched to where it was made into towables or small trailers. But there's about 8 million. There's probably another 2 million in Canada. In the worldwide market, we can't go there. We can't. It's too huge for us, and freight costs and other things make it too cost prohibitive to tap. Unfortunately, we can easily be knocked off. We already have been. We already know there's a company in China that's produced our product and tried to sell it in the United States, but I mean, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much
Have
money
you
you
dealt
can
with
do.
that? Like, have you sent them?
Can't. What are you gonna do?
Until you get a
Cease
patent.
and
Right.
desist?
Yeah, you gotta have a patent.
Well,
first.
even when you get a patent, is it good overseas, or do you have to file an international patent, or a patent in each individual
That's
country?
a-
Yeah, good
Yes
luck.
and no. If the overseas manufacturer tries to sell here,
Uh-huh,
you can get them.
okay,
So any contact with the US and that, even if they try to sell and don't sell, let's say they offer to sell, they use the word. So, US patent alone is pretty good protection. You can stop the knockoff manufacturers.
good, I didn't know that.
At the border, you can even use the customs service to help you.
What do you have to do to get that going? Because I know you can, because in our business, we filed EU patents, we filed Japan patents, we filed
Well,
all
you
over
can
the,
actually
go
go after
uh,
infringers on a publication before it's issued, and then modify it once it's issued.
What does it cost to prosecute, to get them to stop shipping to the United States? What would it cost you to?
Well, it's very specific what, who you go after in the machine and how cooperative they are. I mean, like a good deal was, we had pumpkin toys, Halloween toys. We had some narrow pads on them, and so Asian knockoffs are a big problem in toys. They'll come in with very close looking products and packages, so we would send cease and desist to like Target and say, you're selling an infringing product. And they wouldn't want to bother with, you're not going to court over that. They sell hundreds of thousands of products, so they just pull those and put yours in, and mission accomplished. So you're done. You just get it at the retailer level. You're not going to go back and try to get that manufacturer.
That's what we did at
How would
home.
you even find them?
that makes sense.
But
Makes a lot of
you're
sense.
killing their sales
Yeah.
outlet, so it's effective.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like a whack-a-mole, where you gotta find Target, and you gotta go
Yeah.
file to Walmart, and wherever they're going, you find the chain.
It is an effective way to get distribution, though, actually.
Yeah.
Let them do all the sales presentations, and once it's on the shelf, go in with
I
your.
mean, technically, you can even go after the users,
Mhm.
customers, but that's, widely diverse group.
Attack
and
the
that
6-year-old
tends to
who's
like
playing
just
with the toy.
upset people. Unless if it's a customer that's using a specialized high-value product, you have to deal with a consumer, probably not. But the protections in the patent, there's 5 of them, so it's make, use, sell, offer to sell, or import. So infringers doing any one of those, you can go after them. But a lot, most cases you don't go to court unless it's a really highly commercially significant product, because the economics don't favor it. I mean, if you've got 1 million in damages or 100 million in damages, it's about the same legal costs. So, most of them settle out, or go into license agreements, or get them to stop it. It just depends on the situation.
Well, you can send the cease and desist note to the company just by yourself. I mean, if it's a retailer, right? You don't necessarily need that to be communication from a lawyer. You could just, as the inventor, send something to them and say, hey, you're infringing on my patent, here's the patent number.
Yeah.
Does it sound
yeah.
a lot better from a lawyer?
Mhm.
Is that worth the money then?
Well, probably to, like a Target or something.
Mm-hmm, you'd need the attorney.
You gotta set your strategy that, you're absolutely certain they're selling infringing products, and you're gonna come at them, with a super strong case and get them to cooperate quickly.
Do you do that aspect of patent law too?
Yeah,
You better have deep pockets.
yeah.
It sounds like you have a corporate
You
background.
know, the.
I have a corporate background, but my pockets are not corporate
You
pockets.
know,
My pockets are.
well, let me know when you write that check for chasing somebody that's knocking off your product, because it's not like as easy as you think it
Yeah.
is. You just don't start sending out letters to people. I mean, just the search to find out who's doing it, which country, who has jurisdiction, how you file. I mean, you're talking about thousands of dollars in legal fees at the drop of a hat. There's no guarantee you're ever gonna get to whomever's doing the knocking off,
Mhm.
because it's already happened to us, and we've already tried to trace it, and there's no way I'm gonna
But you,
chase that.
you can sue the retailer too, right, cause they're selling it as
Oh,
well.
well, who's got the money?
Well, I'm just saying.
You can
you
do
don't wanna
anything in
follow
the United
the
States,
trail.
but it's all function of how much money you got.
Yeah, but it's the reseller that's selling it in the United States, that's who you go after, not try to figure out who
Yeah,
made it.
well, good luck,
Can you imagine trying to go after Target?
good luck. It's not the way that you guys color it. It's very, very, very different. It's very, very expensive. It's very, very time consuming, and based upon who you know, where, when, how, why, and then costs a lot of money.
You have to be careful when you approach people so that they,
If you do it
they
wrong,
don't countersue you. And
Yeah,
put
it's-
you in
it's-
a bind, so.
That'd be a pain.
it's high tech.
So you lose everything.
It's.
How would they counter, how would they?
Well, they
lawsuit.
can, if you send a cease and desist, and if it's a threat of litigation, they can go to a court, try to get a declaratory judgment right away. And that might pull you into their venue, like another state or something.
Yeah, Washington DC
And
more
then,
likely,
and then
right
it's
next
more
to the
expensive
patent
and more
office.
hassle for you to do that, so you gotta, you really gotta sit down and be certain who's selling what and when it hit the market and how close is it, make sure it's coming out of the patent. And then you wanna make sure, they got the pockets to cover this, and what's your strategy? Do you want them to stop? Do you want them to license from you? I mean, what do you want to happen here? And then, approach it from there, so it's, you gotta get in your camp and plan and strategize this before you go.
So you do a
out
cost
and demo,
benefit on
because you gotta
each.
kind of anticipate their reaction. It may not be very friendly.
No,
Yeah, I
it's-
guess if your patent is worth a lot of money, you can get an attorney who will work.
You can do contingency on it, plus, by the time someone's knocking you off, the product should have some commercial significance,
Yeah.
because somebody noticed you,
Right.
and they figure it's worth going after.
So are they dipping into your profits at this point?
I don't have a clue. I don't have time to worry about it. There's only so many hours in a day, and with all the challenge you have trying to fulfill distribution channels and market and 10 trade shows and to go
Well, the
after
thing
somebody
is,
that's knocking you off
if
another
they're selling
planet.
competing, you're gonna be running into them all the time.
Yeah. Eventually, just by nature of what we're selling and where we're selling, we'll find out who they are.
Yeah.
And
Because you're involved in that market,
and
and
then,
that distribution channel.
and then we'll figure out what to do with it. But to try and proactively go after them at this stage of the game is just, I don't have the time.
So where do you have it manufactured at?
Here, we do it here in Denver.
Okay. And it's low-tech manufacturing, no high-tech equipment or anything like that to make it?
No, it's assembly. Strictly assembly. Assembly with components that we buy from most of the United States, and we import maybe 20% of what we do.
So can you say made in USA then? What's
Well,
the-
nobody can say that, and that's my pet peeve. Nobody on this planet can say their stuff's made in the USA.
But what are the
It's
rules?
assembled
for
in the
that?
USA.
Assembled.
You
It's
say
assembled
assembled in
or-
the USA.
Assembled. Everybody says made in the USA, that's a
Yeah,
joke.
there is some percent content things that I don't
Mhm.
know. We had a Skype presentation, we got the video. I think that was addressed, her name is Edie, but she's an expert on Asian manufacturing sourcing. I know that question came up.
They specify it in the I can't remember which branch of the government, but I remember looking at the terms in the government
There
web.
is
and
some number out there.
Yeah.
It's a guideline that specifies, depending upon what industry or what you're doing and what you're building, as to what levels you have to be able to use the label made in the USA. And made in the USA is,
Like
our products,
Schillner, over here.
we buy 3M tape made in the USA, distributed to us through China. So does it come from the United States or come from China? Where's the demarcation point for calling that a product that's made in the United States that we incorporate? It's just such a gray area that it's hard to try and, we make it here, everything we make we source from the United States. 20% of our stuff comes from overseas. Not our choice. It's where they ship it from, it's where it comes from. So I don't know. That's a tough one, it really is. My dad was in the war, the big war, and he was very much, don't buy foreign anything. That gets in your soul and your psyche, and I think that's part of America. We want to buy stuff made in the United States, but to really say you're made in the USA I don't think there's anything that's
Well,
really made.
I had 250 of these made, and if I'd had them made in the United States, it would have cost about 10 times more money than
Well, certainly.
having it made in Taiwan. So I had it made overseas. And
Yeah, but would you
just
put a
don't
made
have
in
a
USA
choice.
label on it?
no, I wouldn't
Mhm.
really gain anything from it. You might,
I do. Made in USA. And that didn't come from us, that came from our distributors and our retailers. We wanted to see made in the USA label on it, and we looked at the criteria and figured, well, we fit within the
Mhm.
guidelines.
Can you
Right.
pass around the product?
Yeah,
The
sure.
boxes?
Are they just empty?
Yeah,
Now,
Are they just
Roger, you're
empty?
saying that
Well,
the
there's
patent
good
includes
pictures.
5 rights: the right to make, use, sell, import. What was the 5th one?
Offered to some.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to consummate a sale. It's just you try, like you advertise, because that would be an out someone would have. Like I didn't actually sell it.
Okay, yeah.
So can you go over
Thank you.
just maybe an overview of your process? I mean, you probably have vendors and suppliers. You just send the parts shipped to
oh
this
God,
company?
I could spend so much time, and I know that, I heard that you're trying to manufacture a product and where to start. I don't have a clue how to guide you in that, because it depends upon where you're gonna sell. I think you really need to identify, where am I gonna sell? That'll really dictate what you're gonna do to create your product, because it's all about packaging, it's all about planograms in a store if you're gonna be in a retail environment. It's all about having instructions or visuals on your boxes, and from there pretty much it ends up being, am I gonna produce in the United States, or am I just gonna offshore this? We originally had thought that, screw it, we'll just go to China, but there you go, good luck with that one. Kinda like chasing somebody knocking you off. China is great for you if you know what you're doing, but to go to China and try and get a product built over there is gonna cost you $150,000 to set it up, guaranteed. It's gonna cost you 25 grand just to go over there and make the journey to get all of the facilities in place, and then you need to have somebody in country being able to verify that your product meets whatever standards that you create, and you gotta create them. So you're gonna spend another 10 grand in creating standards they have to build to, and then you gotta have somebody inspect to make sure. And you gotta have a broker for the shipment, and you gotta have inbound, and so it sounds good to have it made overseas, but if you're really a manufacturer, you're gonna have to do it in the United States. So short, long term, your packaging is critical, your graphics are important, everything about putting the procedure and the processes in place. Boxes may get cheap if you buy them out of New York, but you gotta pay freight to get them here. And then you gotta have a place to warehouse them, and then you gotta have a place to assemble them. So there's local box manufacturers in every inventory, every market. So you start out locally with your boxes. Custom boxes are made, they don't cost as much as you think. Get a guy that's good at graphics to come up with a good overlay, and the rest of it's what's in the box, and that's what you're building. If you can construct it here, and there's assembly companies right in Denver where I can take all my components out to him and tell him how many I want, and he'll stuff them for $1 a box. And it's not bad, but you're outsourcing something that quality control is going to be an issue for you. Who's going to know if your box has got what you want in them? I don't know what you're producing. Is it a single ticket item that's going in a box? These we built, they're stock clamshells, or stock header card sizes. Everything about this is stocked from a company that's in North Carolina or somewhere. So they send us the clamshells, they send us a printed piece that goes in it, and we put our stuff in here and heat shrink it. And so if you're trying to manufacture, there's no real easy path. There's no blueprint. It just has to be something that comes with your product, the size of it, what it costs you to make it. Can you make it here? Can you assemble it here? I mean, you've got a long ways to go to take it overseas. I mean, coming up with a product that just says, yeah, well, I like it, it's great, it's worth a lot of money, I'm going to license it. We had that vision, but that's I think that's just everybody's vision that comes up with a good idea and thinks that, well, I'll just license it to somebody. People that want, because we had several companies come after us at the very beginning when we were very young, and they wanted the company. And it was very obvious that they wanted it, and not for very much money. And the first thing they wanted to do is they wanted to talk to Rogers, see what the strengths of our patent applications were. And how would anybody know what the strengths of a patent application is for an unknown product that's never been patented before? But they use that as fodder to be able to try and get you to where you'll agree to a license that, I don't know, then the license agreements and their disclosures are, so it's heady. I mean, there's a lot to it.
So are you optimistic at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. We sold 10,000 units in 2 years. We're launched in the United States and Canada. We have, this year we got hooked up with this national distributor that's got 4,000 dealers. We're gonna make it. Might kill me, but we'll make it.
The distributor's Stag, and are the stores that they sell to Stag, or they sell to
Stag.
RV stores?
Stag is one of probably of a half a dozen distributors in the United States that sells to RV dealers.
Okay.
And they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. Stag's good at putting together planograms. A planogram is like if you go to a 7-Eleven store to buy Cheetos and potato chips and all that, that 6-foot section that has all that stuff in it is called a planogram, and that's done by the distributor. The distributor, and he'll put the best-selling products in the top, and planogram is something that is done in every environment. You walk into Safeway, the reason that you can't walk into the store and find what you want, that's all planogram, every bit of it. When you find something smack in the middle of the aisle that you trip over, somebody paid a fortune to have that thing set there. It's part of the planogram strategy.
Manufacturers or distributors, they go in and restock and rearrange.
The distributors
and everything.
just set it
So
all
the
up.
store people, they just restock a portion of it, right?
Yeah, store people put in there what the distributor sets up to be, and my industry's the same way. You go into any large RV dealer and you'll find that there'll be a whole section of products where it's always in the same place, it's always organized the same way, and if you want in there, some industries you can buy your presence, you can buy a place. You can actually say, okay, if you want to be in that slot in the store.
I've heard that in grocery stores.
Yeah.
You pay so many
Absolutely.
dollars
Slotting
a
fees, it's a
foot.
lot.
Big bucks.
Big
Big
bucks.
bucks.
You lease shelf space, right? And then like if it's refrigerated or frozen, it's even more.
But if you
And then
don't
next
sell,
door, it's like you can
if
do
you
it
don't
for
sell the
$1.
volumes in the agreement,
They'll pull you out.
you're gone.
A heartbeat.
You're gone.
But I mean, I also notice now there's all kinds of creative, like these cardboard little stands and shelves, like you can add displays and you're not consuming their regular shelf space.
Yeah, it's a
Like
real.
people are all about, they create this freestanding stuff.
We did that. We did that with
Yeah.
you and Jeff. We tried, and we're not ready, and we spent a fortune trying to do it, but we're not ready for it. And
So you
people
haven't
don't.
really put that into use yet.
Oh yeah, you have to be a big dog to get your display sitting on an open floor by itself.
Maybe.
That's like absolutely the top of the chart. If you get there, you're way past where we're at a lower level.
It's easier, I think, at the individual store level. You get those temporary displays in, a lot of times.
Yeah, and some of them are floor, it's just a thing, you just hang somewhere.
Right.
It's got, if it's a small product.
Mm-hmm. Clip
It's
strip
just
for
kind of
the,
like a Christmas
What's a
tree
park
thing.
model?
yeah.
Pardon me?
What's a park model?
It's an RV. It starts out as an RV, but when it gets to where it's going, they pull the axles on it.
Okay, okay.
In some states, they're legal. Some state, Colorado, they're not legal. Park models aren't legal in this state.
Okay.
They're big RVs, and then they go someplace and they put a foundation under them, and then they're no longer. They're still park models. I mean, they're everywhere. They call them that, but They start as an RV, but more of a home, small home.
Are you marketing to the end user?
Who?
The end user?
Yeah, we sell e-commerce. We sell direct to our customers. So yeah, we market on the internet and,
How do you do that? How do you advertise on
oh my. AdWords, small AdWords campaign. I got a social media guy in Texas, a couple of kids they're great at doing blogs and whatever they do. And pay them so much money a month for a blog. I don't know. That's my biggest weakness.
Are you managing your own AdWords campaigns?
Yeah. Well, I started out having somebody else do it, but I just got ripped off to the teeth. So after I figured out what it was all about, and what it takes to do it, I do it myself. It's not that difficult. And trust me, I hate doing that stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't do Facebook. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to use it. I don't have one of those. My guys say that they put together an account for me. It's good. Have fun. I just don't do it. And, you know, that's because that's my generation. I have no interest in having my face planted all over the internet. And I guess Facebook, I don't know. But Facebook for a sales medium, it's so strange because you can do business on Facebook through those kind of channels, but it has to start from a personal Facebook account.
Yeah, under an
Which is
individual's name.
so
Yeah.
odd because you have to put together your Facebook page and then you can kind of convert it into a business thing, which is way weird. But we have that, and I really don't do that. I mean, I struggled with trying to figure out how to grasp that. I know that that's the world's greatest marketing element, but luckily I'm selling to people that look like me. Most of them, I'm being serious. You know, I'm lucky. I wouldn't be able to do a product that is a teen or a 25-year. I couldn't do it. I don't have the necessary resources. But my age, my guys, our phones burn off the wall at people. I'm not ordering off the damn internet. I called up now. I know. Can I order some of these from you? Surely, sir. Well, good. Let me give you my credit card. Every day, all day long, I deal with customers that they don't like the internet, so it makes my job a lot easier. I don't have to spend so much
Yeah,
time.
it's a
worrying about this.
generational thing there.
It's a very,
They're,
very
more
general.
comfortable with
It's
the phone.
my industry's changing. It's getting younger, but it's still very much an older demographic. And
For those guys that call up, where do they get the information about your product? How do they acquire it?
we advertise in a few selected mediums that really target those people. Magazines, you know, those folks read magazines. They want, it's like people that read newspapers. They want a newspaper. They don't want to go click on the internet to read it. So we focus our marketing dollars for ads where we know people are reading and looking at those ads, and that's where we get a response like that. Camping World is probably the biggest thing that happened to us. That was the huge. You can't get in their stores without a stroke of genius, and we didn't have a stroke of genius. We just got lucky. So we go to all their trade shows, we advertise in their magazines, and we focus on that. My market is, as you indicated, there's 8 million RVs out there right now, so there's 350 million people in the United States. So I'm targeting 3, 4, 5%. It makes it simple. It makes it a little easier. For trying to go after a mass market and a younger audience, you just have to adjust what you're doing, where you're spending your dollars. I mean, I guess you can spend as much as you want on a Facebook marketing campaign. I mean, and maybe you can get extremely successful doing it because it is phenomenal in terms of an outreach capacity or how you can make that work for whatever you're selling. And you know, with what you've got for your product, you're tapping into a different market than I am. But you know, the resources are just something you have to seek out and figure out how to make it work for you.
Do you know what your cost per click is for your?
Oh hell, I don't know. It looks like it. You know, I'm very, very focused on. If you look at an ads campaign, whether you guys have any familiar with it, I'm not a qualified person on AdWords. All I know is that the cost per click is one determining factor, but the conversion ratio is the big one. And the last one is where you rank on the first page. So when you look at all your AdWords going across there, the cost per click is not as important as where that converts. And
You mean in terms of whether when they get to your web page, whether they buy it or not?
whether they click and go through.
Yeah.
It's called a click-through rate. Your click-through rate, if it ranges between, I think 2% or higher, you're doing phenomenal. And if you get between like a 1 to 3 ranking on first page, that means you're always on the first page when you're paying.
So you have to make sure you've got a nice landing page, that's gonna be attractive, and it's going to want them to buy your product.
Well, the quality score is actually calculated based on, do they just click? That click-through percentage, whether they buy once they hit your page or not, isn't gonna affect the quality score. And they give you a quality score for each keyword.
Yeah, no, I've gone through this whole thing. So
Yeah,
the cost per click is really, that's where you actually have to pay.
right.
And then if you
So you
don't,
set that as
when
a
they
budget,
land on the page, if they
Mhm.
don't then buy your product, then that's where you lose, right? Because if they click, they get to the page, they see something that they don't understand or they don't like, they're gonna go off somewhere else.
Yeah, but if
So
all
you
you're
still have
focusing,
to pay for
if
it.
all you're focusing on is the AdWords campaign, you got a long ways to go. You need to broaden your horizons big time. That's just a tiny little composite of trying to do a social media marketing.
What percentage of your sales are through e-commerce?
I think I mentioned about 30%.
30%? That's a pretty nice percentage.
Do you have
It's not fun.
do you have videos of your product?
Some, yeah.
How about
And-
YouTube?
I got some of that. I don't do all that stuff. You guys are talking to the wrong person. I got whatever I'm doing out there and stuff. I don't even know how to get to my YouTube account. Every time I go in there, I muck something up. It's terrible. I mean, what's your Twitter account handle, name, user thing? And every time I go in there, the guys say, well, that's a mess.
For anybody who is using AdWords, though, one of the things that it's true every place I've looked, it may not be true everywhere, but the cost to promote a video is actually less than the cost to promote a banner ad or a text ad, and I think it's because there aren't that many people that have videos. And it works exactly the same way. You have a thumbnail of the video and then you get a headline and you get some copy, and so all those impressions are free until they click. AdWords links actually to YouTube, so it'll play off of your YouTube page, so you get some of those YouTube diagnostics as well. So if you're advertising through AdWords or just anywhere online and you want to augment it, I'd really encourage you to go out and get a video made. It doesn't have to be professionally made, and keep it short, but your cost per click is likely to be maybe just 10% of what your cost per click would be for a print ad.
See, what I discovered is the cost per click is, my cost per click was around $2.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And that's because Google figures out how many links there are to your, one of the factors that goes into it is they figure out how many links there are to your site.
Mm-hmm.
And the more links, the less your cost per click. And there's other factors that goes into it too, like how well your site is organized and how they can crawl it and figure out what's there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they find words on your site that doesn't match what your search criteria is, that increases your cost per click as well.
That's changed so much. I mean, talking about AdWords as a strategy is like yesterday. And that's what everybody I deal with tells me every day. Don't spend time stressing over AdWords anymore. You need to broaden out. You need to spend time blogging, go to forums, spend time doing product reviews, making a presence felt on LinkedIn, and going places where you really, really send your fingers out in a lot of directions. Then Google will pick up on it eventually. But a singular structure based on AdWords is just throwing a lot of money away. Maybe that's all you got to work with.
Yeah. So what do you do? What do you do to get all the e-commerce? You hire bloggers to.
I have 2 guys in Texas that we put together a blog based upon the web page, and we launched the blog. And you can send your blog out to a bazillion places, and that starts to get traction.
Right.
You backfeed that with activity that comes out of Facebook and your sales that are going on and all your different stratas. So I'm at a different level than perhaps you are, and you're trying to market a product with not a lot of resources other than AdWords. Then you need to add to it. I mean, maybe whack off a couple of $100 and try a different strategy or try reaching out in another
Well, that's
direction.
what I'm trying to figure out, what's the strategy, so you use
You know,
bloggers, you
there
use-
is no,
yeah.
there is no strategy that you can follow. It's based upon what your product is, who your market is, where you're trying to sell, you know, what you're trying to accomplish with it. So you set that up based upon that and move forward with it. But I wouldn't encourage anybody to go to strictly AdWords to try and.
Oh, I
market
gave
their
up completely on AdWords, I'm trying to figure out.
Well, that's a
Right
problem. You
now,
can't
what you
figure, you
do to
can't
get your-
figure it out. They don't, it's not made for you to be able to figure it out. It's not something that
It's,
you can read those statistics till you go blind. You're not gonna understand them. Why the hell do you think Google's got so many millions and billions of dollars? 'Cause
Well, do
they
you
got-
know where all the people that are going to your website buying the 30% are coming from? Where
Pretty much.
where are they getting your?
You get a feel for it. I mean, I talk to a lot of my customers, so I get a lot of direct feedback, and they'll tell me, "Well, I saw your ad here, I saw your
So
ad
they
here."
saw it in that magazines and
Yeah.
they just typed in the.
And there's metrics out there and companies that can help you identify where it comes from when it comes to you. I mean, you can do that stuff all day long. I don't think anybody can become an expert at it unless that's all you do all day long. I think you need to hire different entities for different levels of what you need to do.
Gary, do you sell on Amazon?
I hate Amazon. I'd like to shoot
I
those
guess you
sons of
don't,
bitches.
no.
No, I
So
don't.
the answer is
We
no,
tried
I guess.
to
I
sell
mean,
on
it seems
Amazon.
like it probably depends on the product, but it seems like it pays off for people pretty well. So.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Well, maybe it's not
I
your
wouldn't say
audience,
that.
right? And
Oh,
Amazon.
I think it can be. It's no different than selling on eBay. You know, what those people are, I've had, probably in the last year and a half, every problem I've had, I mean, every problem I've had has come from either eBay or Amazon, exclusively. And what it comes in is, the first thing that happens is they hit your account and freeze your money, send you some bullshit thing that I'm sorry, kids. Sorry, guys. They send you a somewhat strange request that you can't understand about how this customer was unhappy for whatever reason, which doesn't matter, and you need to respond within the next 24, 28, 48, whatever. And they respond, and you get an automated, you can't call anybody, you can't talk to anybody. It eats up hours of your day. No, I would say unless you are a huge company, stay away from Amazon. You're not ready for them. I'm not.
I actually I had kind of a different experience, although I agree when you do have a problem trying to get a hold of them, I mean, there's nobody you can call. But from a marketing value standpoint, Amazon's the most common site people go to just investigate products. And if they're looking for something that would do, you know, something, they don't know, but they want something that's a lift, or that people are now going to Amazon even if they're buying it retail. They're going to Amazon as a source for information. Amazon reviews are one of the most trusted sites, almost like Consumer Reports, in terms of if this product's been reviewed on Amazon. You know, people put a lot of credence into that, and so as a business strategy, we went on Amazon not because we thought we were going to necessarily sell that much on Amazon, but because we knew that people were going to be going on Amazon looking for information on products. And it is, the fulfillment side of it is, they take a nice hunk out of your profit margin to handle it for you. If you're willing to fulfill it yourself, they'll still list it, and it doesn't cost as much. For us, the best thing was getting them to just buy it and sell it directly. And oddly enough, I think that their buyers right now are being encouraged to get as many products in their product line as they can, that they're buying directly, so it's not that hard to get them to buy directly if you can just get them to answer the phone and talk to you. They have an industrial and scientific division that's different from the consumer division, and those buyers are a lot more accessible. So if you have something that would be sold B2B and consumer, easier to get through in the industrial and scientific side. But I feel bad that you had bad experiences with
No,
them.
I wouldn't. It's not a bad experience. It's a mindset. People that buy stuff from Amazon, they expect it to be delivered within 3 hours. You know, you build your stuff in California, they want it on their desk in 2 hours. I mean, that's the mindset behind everybody that buys on Amazon. If it even smells like the package is wrong, they want their money back in full. It makes a horrible, horrible burden for a small manufacturer. And I can't say anything good about Amazon. I've got tons and tons of things. You're welcome to take a look at. I'll email all of them to you. It's a joke.
Are you fulfilling through them too? Or are you
No,
doing
I
the fulfillment?
I won't
Have you
talk
used
about
them
it. Yeah. No, I won't deal with
for,
Amazon.
with this product here?
Yeah, I won't deal with Amazon.
So,
You gotta be crazy to do with Amazon. You
Well,
gotta be
unless
crazy,
you're
you gotta have a lot,
selling
you
a
gotta have a
lot.
lot, if you're a large enough company and you have enough customer service people to sit at a desk and handle their needs, it may not be a bad route to go. But you can't go to Amazon and expect that's gonna be a smooth road to sell your product. It's very, very rocky. It's filled full of very, very time-consuming things. And when you're dealing with nobody that you can call, nobody you can speak to, and emails and speaking to people in China, because they don't have any American customer service rep, even if you demand to speak to somebody, in case any of you aren't aware of that, any company you call for customer service, you can, as part of federal legislation, demand to speak to somebody in the United States. And whether or not they'll do it or not, but it is a law. And for the most part,
I didn't know
yep,
that.
some of the bigger companies say, okay, hang on, and then all of a sudden, hi, this is Bill in Utah, how can I help you? It's federally mandated that anybody that sells in the United States has got to provide American, what would you call, American located customer service reps who speak English. Never heard of Get Human? GETHUMAN? Get Human. Mark that one down. Don't ever lose it. You can gethuman.com and type in any company in the United States, and it lists you the top 5, 6, 7 phone numbers direct to get to somebody
Oh,
that's
that's fantastic.
and they'll listen. The number one number for reaching somebody at Verizon.com, 1-800-445-111222 times 4, and Get Human. And man, that's one of the best websites I've ever found. It's just phenomenal. And for the most part, I've had mostly all good results with it. Works good. So, not all companies ascribe to it, but they really do a good job about giving you a phone number you can get to somebody and talk to somebody that's a body. I'm sorry, I mean,
No,
maybe you
don't be
have,
sorry.
your Amazon experiences are very different than mine, and I don't mean to downplay that company, but I think they're poor for our world. They're poor
I can
for
say
our
for
country.
logistics fulfillment,
Mhm.
Amazon is a bear. I mean, compared to
Right.
other companies we dealt with, Amazon logistically
Well,
was hard.
what was good, because from the fulfillment side, when they were fulfilling for us and
Oh,
we
that
weren't
was-
shipping to them directly, you know, the problems that you were describing, because you weren't using them for fulfillment, they took care of that. So basically, when we were just a merchant paying them a fulfillment fee, but they weren't buying direct, ship it to them, and they kept the stock and they sent it out, and we never had complaints.
Yeah.
But what it does is it takes a hunk out of your profit
oh
margin.
yeah, but if you make a lot, if you sell a lot,
Mhm.
you'll make a lot still, but you
How
gotta sell
long
a lot of money.
How long did you have to wait for payment?
For Amazon, it's really fast.
Is it?
Yeah, they send you checks every month. Never had any problem with that side of it. And never had any problems, frankly, with the fulfillment side of it, or if there was a complaint that showed up and it was because they had handled it poorly and the box had gotten bashed, they would go ahead and fix that in the reviews. The issues that I had with them mostly were in the back end with the software that you use to kind of manage your inventory. If there was a glitch in there, trying to find somebody that would help you fix the glitch, that, you know, just take your blood pressure pills before you even start, you know, trying to do that. But once everything's set up, it just really was pretty smooth for us.
Or the other problem from the beginning was because we sold to retail or we
Right.
sold to other people, they published on Amazon,
Mhm.
then they owned the name for a while.
That's
so
one
we
of
could
the
wrestle
things,
those
yeah,
out.
that's
And
one
that
of the
was
things
just-
that's annoying about the Amazon merchant is if you sold this to somebody else and they wanted to sell your stuff on Amazon, they could create a product listing, and that whoever creates it first kind of
One.
owns it, and then so they can put facts on there that aren't necessarily good facts.
Yep.
And
That's
then you have
exactly
to,
that's exactly where we left them.
Mhm.
They told us we weren't allowed to do anything about that, and contact the legal department, and of course, nobody you can call, and we just gave up.
Well, when you sell to them directly, suddenly you can ask to be the manufacturer of record, even if it's through fulfillment, and you've got some more powers over the listings, but you've got to go through an approval process. If you sell to them directly, then you go to the top and you own your listing and you can make whatever changes. It's a lot easier for you to control what's out there on your product.
I'd have to hire a salesperson for that, and you know, there's not enough money in a small manufacturing concern to dedicate one to handling Amazon. Those volumes would have to reach very quickly a huge amount in order to justify paying somebody $50,000-$60,000 a year to manage an e-tailer like Amazon. And
What?
I don't know that you understand the differences between what a small manufacturer has for cash flow for a startup company based upon gross inventory and gross receipts. And to have someone that would need to do that work is a full-time job.
When you say a salesperson, do you mean that, because actually I was doing that myself. I was the salesperson for Amazon. We did have like customer service.
Well, sure, you
Doing
have a
some stuff
salary
on
and it
the-
costs to keep you busy and keep you working.
Yeah, but that was 2% of my time.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe I know all the talking in the world is not going to convince me to go back to Amazon. I don't
Oh,
have-
and I'm not
I don't have the time and the
trying
energy
to.
for it, and they're not an they're not an e-commerce friendly company. They're not very easy to work with. They're not easy to talk to. They're not easy to handle disputes with. They just take too much time of your day, and that's not something that we're ready for at this time. Maybe when our volumes get to a certain point, and we don't really, and there's something that you guys need to consider is, where do you want to be? I don't want to be an e-commerce company. I have no desire to have all my sales. I don't even want 30% of my sales e-commerce. I want my manufacturing product run through distribution channels. I want it going through manufacturer to distributor to dealers to customers. I don't want to be e-commerce, which is maybe something that would help explain my position on that. If I wanted to go to Amazon and be an Amazon and eBay and all that stuff, I would have a totally different direction in the company. But my market and the people that I'm selling to are not people that buy from Amazon and eBay. They don't buy there. So I guess that market definition is something that perhaps I didn't address strongly enough. Maybe that discussion is going to give you some idea as to why I have that feeling. A little bit of effort we work on to create business out of Amazon creates 5 times the headaches that we get out of trying to keep our stuff going through our regular distribution networks. And that's really, really a critical component. Because even when I first dealt with Roger and his associate Jeff trying to do packaging and things like that, you don't need packaging in Amazon. You don't need boxes. You don't need labels. You need a white box with your stuff stuffed in there with a good luck, hope it works for you. So where you're going to go and what you're going to do is really part of that definition. And if Amazon's the way to go, you don't have to spend any money on packaging. And that saves a lot of dough. I mean,
But Gary, don't you, when you sell online, I mean, you don't have to pay the cuts of the distributors and retailers.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask.
Don't you
what
make a bigger gross?
Your margin
Yeah.
is much better.
You're eliminating all those middle guys that you were talking about.
no,
earlier.
because they're fees. All when
Well, I
you
mean,
add,
yeah,
when you add up
in
all the
return
fees they
for their
charge,
fees.
it ends up almost being equal to going
Right.
the other way.
So at the end of the year, you said you had 30% of your sales is e-commerce. What were the profits for those? Were they very high or
Yeah.
similar?
Yeah, those are high margin. You have to have that until you get to the point where you can get enough volume. So we're doing this. Once we get to here, this is gone. We're not going to do e-commerce. I mean, I can give you 1,000 different products where you buy them and wherever you want to buy them, but you're not going to call the manufacturer up for an issue. You're going to call your retailer. Wherever
So
you
you're
purchase
seeing your
it.
e-commerce go down and
Yeah,
your
at some
brick
point in
and
time
mortar.
on my e-commerce is going to be dead. It'll be all referred out to dealers.
When you're selling through distributors, one of the problems that we've had is you get it into the distributor, but the distributor reps don't know the product. And so getting it from the distributor onto the retail shelf, has that been a problem for you, or that's kind of happened pretty much automatically?
That's back into that planogram thing. How much money do you want to spend? I mean, if you spend enough money with them in their magazines and their trade shows and their all their things that they do that have really define what a distributor is. Once you dump enough money in, they'll find a way to make sure that your product gets a little more exposure, or maybe you get into a planogram, or some distributors actually offer you the ability to participate. I didn't bring all the magazines that these guys put out. They put out a lot of them, but they have one that's specific to a planogram program where they'll reinforce it, they'll buy into it, and you have to guarantee them prices, and they'll put together a system where when you go into a particular retail environment, if it's one of those scenarios, your planogram will go into that store as part of a store set. But it comes at a cost, and if you don't have enough sales going on, you're paying for all of it, and if the sales don't pan out, they jerk it and throw it away. So all the money you spend is so it's kind of it's rolling the dice with whether or not your demand is high enough to have that exposure or not.
A lot of it depends on, is your product self-explanatory, or does it have to really, people have to know about it in order for it to sell?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it looks like this is, I mean,
It's-
it's not self-explanatory to me, because I don't know from
Well,
trailers, but.
people that are in this
Yeah.
industry
Right.
buy it, they know what it is.
Right, exactly.
Just the name, they immediately gravitate to it. Now, flash, so we still have to do nice packaging though, because you can't put a box with a name on and expect that it's gonna sell in today's environment. It still has to be glossy and pretty, and,
I'm guessing that cost you quite a bit to get that small run done, so.
yeah.
Did they have minimum order quantities you needed to print for these?
Oh, yeah. Boxes like this, the die cut is a charge, so with the size of your boxes, you spend X amount of dollars on cutting the die, which is nothing more than a razor blade thing that stamps cardboard and makes this pattern. And you fold them up. This is an overlay. It's what they call it's not a decal, but it's a sticker. It's a label. And the label manufacturers work independently of the box companies. So you send out your Jeff Rogers associate is very, very good at it. If you need a guy that does design graphics, he's been my guy, and he does a phenomenal job at this. So he does this in Adobe or Photoshop, whatever he needs to create this label. When it's done, it looks just like this. And it lays right on the die cut for the box. We send it to the label people in Fort Collins. Fort Collins sends it back as a proof. We print it, and if it looks good, we say go. They build the labels and ship them to the box company. The box company combines them with the cardboard and the line. Out they come. Cost, if I do 500 of these, they're $7 a piece. If I do 1,000,
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I'm shocked they can get it down to 500. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a low run
Yeah,
for those
no,
guys.
Well-
how about if you did 100,000?
if I do 1,000, well, you got to remember,
Oh, you-
I'm doing 6,000 to
6,000
12,000
I
units
know,
per
but
year.
if you pumped it up, 100,000, what do you think the cost would
No,
go down to?
you're only reach a point at about, in the box world, somewhere around 2,000 to 2,500. You got to remember,
We did boxes, that's why I'm asking
yeah,
what I did.
when you reach about 2,000 to 2,500, you're where you're going to be. The next jump's not going to be that significant. So from 500 to 2,500 is where our price goes down. So we go from ridiculous amounts. When we get to 2,000 units, we're paying about $1.70 a box.
Yeah, I was gonna guess that was
You get
about
if
$2.
you go, if I go 5,000, it may drop down a dime. It's not much, but that break point's at about 2,000. It's based upon the square footage of the cardboard. So once you reach X amount of square footage, after that it doesn't change very much. It's already into there.
Well, we did ours in Mexico though, so it was a
Yeah,
lot
but then you
cheaper.
paid for the freight to get it here.
At that point, I was living in El Paso. We did in Juarez. We just had a.
Just come across,
It
yeah.
wasn't a big
It
deal
was-
for you.
yeah,
Well,
it
in Denver,
was just
you
cheap.
wouldn't have
It was
made any
really
money on that deal.
Yeah,
Because we started out with our stuff being built in Iowa, and that's part of the learning curve.
yeah, way too expensive for the freight.
Oh yeah, holy smokes! I thought,
They have some stock die cuts too, so you don't have to pay for the die, if you can be a little flexible on your packaging cost. And there are places that can print on corrugate. You don't get the crisp pictures, but if you don't need
right, there's
visuals.
different levels. You're correct. There's 3 different box companies in town. They go from good, better to best. We're in the better category in what we produce here. The best is going to cost too much money for what we do, but labels are labels, and then the cardboard's based upon what are you putting in it, how much does it weigh, does it need to be able to protect a product, or is it sensitive, does it need to have any kind of a protection from static electricity, and blah 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 blah. So that's another whole
Discussion.
ball game to play. I mean, we bounced around from 3 different box companies and spent thousands of dollars on don't ever print a box and print the box, because you print the box and that's it. You're gonna print the box. If you wanna make any changes, you start over. So even though it costs you more money when you start out with your boxes, go to labels. Because once you do the label one time, your changes are zero. It don't cost you anything. And that,
Did
that
they-
was a big lesson.
Did they make you produce a minimum
Here's
number of
what I'm
labels?
talking about.
Yeah.
That's a printed box.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to change the printed boxes,
It's
oh, okay,
everything.
well,
Yeah.
what's your next one gonna look like? What do you mean? Well, we get to start over. So we switched to labeled boxes. We spent more money because you have to have the labels made, where when you do a printed box, all you're doing is doing an ink print transfer.
What's the
So-
difference in
But you
price?
get a lot
Oh.
better quality looking. you know.
Quite, oh yeah, look at the
Yeah.
difference in the quality. I mean, it's phenomenal between. I mean, these look like you can. These are called full color press boxes. You can make them any color you want at any level of whatever you want them to look like. They're labels. These, like you get your basic colors and they look kind of tacky. But when you change them, it costs you as much as it does to do these.
Well,
Silk screen process in essence, just like they
Yeah.
used to do with the t-shirts.
So
That's the
that
way
box
it
would be
works.
half the price of the other one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
and it depends on who's printing it. There are, like, if they're using a plate, you can do what they call a black plate change if you just want to change
You can get
the
them in different color
copy.
plates.
And typically it's anywhere from like $600 to a couple $1,000 to do a plate change, depending on who the printer is in the process.
We tried that, and when we tried to do the plate change, it ended up being so much money. They were probably squeezing us, but most of the time they'd say you're better off starting with a new plate. A plate's nothing more than this great big piece of goofy-looking rubber. It's got all these bumps on it. But if you want to change it, they literally take their razor knives and they go in and they make their mod. But it's, for the most part, it's not very user-friendly to make a change to a rubber plate. So.
What do you think's been your biggest challenge from starting till now?
Amazon.
You know, it's funny because everybody told me to go to Amazon. You know, I tried it. It's like, this is nuts. I mean, this is just nuts. It's not. Maybe it's good for some. I don't want to shut up about Amazon. It wasn't a good deal. Roger, I don't know. I mean, you were a challenge.
You're right.
Well,
You-
that's
you
a
asked
given.
for that.
I mean, yeah, I've learned a lot. I mean, I've become friends with Roger, and I've learned a lot from him. But the patent process is something that people don't understand. I mean, it's not just like you go get a patent and there you go. I mean, that's just got to be one of the components. I mean, the validity of your product and making sure you can sell it, and then trying to figure out how to sell it. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, is this thing sellable? I mean, if you haven't got
I think
something.
for a lot of inventors, they don't realize that how you sell a product, there's so many different ways
Yeah.
to do it, and it's critically important to get that right.
I mean, you can go to the library and sit down with the Denver library. I want to look into this, and they'll do research for you. See how many of those, how many of those are selling? What is that? And they'll do a lot of grassroots research. But if what you're working on isn't something that jumps off a shelf that is a needed thing in whatever market you're looking at, then I'd say that's where you spend your money. And luckily, we pretty much knew that this will sell. And we had people in the industry that looked at it and said, that will sell. I mean, from there, it's nothing more than, how do I finance this? How do I do it? And looking into licensing at the beginning, I'm just going to license it. It's like, well, that didn't go anywhere. Nobody's going to buy and give you money for an idea. And so that forces you into developing at least prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a decent enough product, hey, they sold pet rocks and made a lot of money off of them.
That's true.
So, I mean, between a pet rock and what you've got is how much it's going to cost you to do it, and you got the money to do it. And I poured a lot, my heart and soul into this, and probably everything I had to go into it. But we've got a pretty confident belief that when it comes time for exit strategy, we've got something that can sell. And if you develop a product and you don't know that it's going to sell, or you don't, I mean, a pet rock without good marketing never would have went anywhere. So I don't, getting into your distribution channel strategy is absolutely just critical. Starting out, I think of all the decisions you have to make is, where am I going to sell this and who am I selling it to? And from there, I think all the pieces will fall into place, because all industries are defined so basically down to major trade shows. They all have them. And it doesn't cost much to go to one. You don't usually have to belong to anything to get there. You might drop $1,500 or a couple of grand to go to a trade show and get a 10 by 10 booth and set your stuff on a table. And from there, you'll get enough feedback. You'll get enough people that'll stop by that you talk to, and they'll be able to give you some feedback, and you'll get some validity issues taken care of. But I'd suggest that that's, in terms of the biggest challenge, I think the patent was a huge one for us, because Roger was very good at telling me that, you really think that can sell? And you gotta file all this paperwork, and from there, for us, how we gonna sell this thing, how we gonna get it moving. And the first 6 months to a year is very, very challenging, because you don't know where to go, how to do it with. Find people in the industry that you can talk to. I mean, Christ, if you gotta pay for somebody that's in that industry to become somebody to bounce your thoughts off of, I don't know. And I mean, of all the challenges, it's always money. Where you can come up with the money, because the return on what you're doing is forever in a heartbeat down the road. It's a long, long path. If you put a lot of money into it, if you got a lot of people investing with you, and you have a lot of upfront capital, and you go use a CPA and structured attorneys and people to grow your business that way, it's a different world. But I didn't go that road, so I don't know it. I can't speak to it. I know as a small investor, it's a challenge. We're into our 3rd year. We started our patent process in 2010, and we weren't on the market till like late in 2011. So we've been at it 3 years. We're supposed to be profitable in the 3rd year. I don't think we're profitable. I mean, we're breaking even. We're not making any money.
So what took that a length of time between when you applied for the patent and it was a year, right, before you started selling?
He's the guy down there to talk to about that. You can sell for what, a year before you have to have your paperwork filed?
US only.
US only.
You can start selling, you can apply for the patent, you get patent pending almost immediately and then start selling.
Right, but you can sell up to a year before that and still file, but.
Yeah.
Are you
If somebody
protected?
else
As a
filed before
business
you.
strategy,
Well-
it's a little risky because your
Yeah.
product's out there naked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what they suggest for other people is to find someone who is willing to put their money up, for it. Because you are taking a risk.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a patent, it could take 5 years, it could take 1 year.
Are you protected with a provisional patent?
Yeah, it's still patent pending for 1 year.
But if someone decides to make the product, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to prosecute them. So
Not until at least you publish, and you can put them on
then you
notice.
can go backwards and get them. But until you get your patent, you can't prosecute them.
They don't have liability until they have notice. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of ways to show that,
But you can't sue anybody with a provisional patent.
not a
You've
provision,
gotta
no, it
have
has
a-
to be a utility that published, yeah.
So once you get published, then you can go after them, but until then,
That's why it's critically important, like if the allegedly infringing product, you gotta know when that hit the market. And the best thing to do is to show that they had access to your product beforehand.
Before they did theirs?
Yeah, so that's a big plus in your favor.
Is there any way for you as a professional to be able to see what's in the pipeline? So you can do patent searches for patents that have already been granted, but if somebody has
Yeah,
something.
That's a good point. There is a black hole, so to speak, of 18 months. And at least it's limited to 18 months now. So provisionals are kept secret for their full life of 12 months, always. Utilities are kept secret for 18 months.
And then are they published for comment? Is that how it works?
They get published and then they're examined after that.
Okay.
These days usually, because the examination's gonna happen in about 24 months, the publication's at 18. And then, once they're issued, then the public has several ways to challenge the patent, either through re-examination or what they call post-grant review. That's been an enhancement that was added in last year.
So
last year.
you can have a patent granted and then have it taken away?
You can get it revoked
Any
afterwards.
member of the public
Oh,
can
yeah.
challenge it. It's a presumption of validity, but usually it comes down to there's some unknown piece of prior art that antedated your file date,
Mhm.
that had your invention in the public domain that no one knew about.
Is there a point where that expires and you know your patent's good?
No.
Or you're always just,
No, it's always
It's always
there.
just a sort of Damocles over
No,
your head.
it's
as long
it's
as
really a
long as-
parsing thing. It's not like this piece of prior art's out there and your patent gets wiped out. It's like a patent has multiple claims
Mhm.
of varying widths, so this piece of prior art may come up and it may wipe out, say, 5 of your 20 claims. So you still got something, but you lost a piece.
okay,
That is really how it works.
I see why you need a lawyer.
But yeah, it's subject to challenge at any time, as is a trademark.
Mhm.
It's the same way.
It's kind of like worrying about being knocked off. You know, if you get your product to be accepted, it's something that's recognized, maybe name brand is established. I mean, somebody may come along and challenge or question what you're doing, but you're first to market, you're first on the shelf, you're first in the system.
Right, I
You-
mean, there's a lot of
There's other issues.
advantages besides the patent business side, you know, which is size, network, being known,
Mhm.
your brand name, your reputation. 'Cause you know, someday the patent's gonna expire, and then you're gonna be competing on all that stuff
Right.
anyway. But by that time, you should be pretty well established.
Is it 17 years?
It's, they changed it to 20 years from filing, but it's effectively the same.
Okay.
Because it takes so long to get through the process.
It,
Is that the?
Yeah, you assume a 3-year processing, but that was to combat some fraud issues with what they call summary patents.
Okay.
What people used to do in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they would keep a patent pending for literally 40, 50, 60 years sometimes. And then when they saw a competitor come out with technology, they'd get it issued and sue for infringement.
Source
It's
of
like a
revenue.
torpedo, right?
It's like people
Yeah.
buying
Huh?
website
It's-
domain
it's
names.
still a strategy.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, some companies, that's why they file so many
So,
patents. I mean, that's what-
It's a strategy.
And the way it
Patent
was.
pending, you look at,
is
if
that
you start
that
paying
pending
attention, look at
patent,
so many
say,
products that you
40
buy, you'll see
years
patent pending.
was kept secret. And the person never put the product in the market, they just had a pending patent. That's why they call it submarine, because it surfaces like out of nowhere. So now, that window can't exceed 20 years, because your clock starts from filing off the issue. See, in the old days, 40
Oh.
years of
Mhm.
pendency, life starts at issue of
Issue,
17.
not at filing.
Now life starts at 20 of filing, irrelevant to the issue.
So if you keep it submerged for another 3 years, your patent's only good for 4 at that point. If you had 3 before it was granted, well, it wouldn't,
Well, let's say you
What-
kept it, well, there is a way, if you don't go foreign, you can opt out of publication. I could keep it submerged 19 years, get it issued, and have a life of 1 year.
okay.
But most people want the option of getting foreign, so not only we have the 20-year life that starts at filing, so the longer you keep it pending, you're eating into your life all the time. And then the 18-month publication, so it goes public, not the issued patent, the way it was filed, it's called a publication.
Okay.
So for the most part, the secrecy went down from 40 years to 18 months, and the life went from, well, you know, it could have been 100 years, and now it's to 20 years. And it's kind of nice, because the rest of the world's all in that same standard.
When did they do that?
The patent life thing was way back in 95, and the 18-month publication came in at 01. But Europe and Asia have been doing that all along. So it gives the inventor an advantage. You got that 18-month window of
Mhm.
secrecy, and then that's it. So it gives you kind of a head start, but it I think it's bad for the economy to let it be secret. too
Yeah.
long.
But you
yeah,
don't
no
rec-
secrecy is kind of like no advantage to the inventor.
But when you recommend to your clients, once they actually file the patent, they can go ahead and start marketing it. They don't have to wait until the patent's granted.
Exactly. You don't want to because you have extra fees as you go along, so
Mhm.
you wanna know that product's making money and paying for itself. You know, the product should pay the patent costs and everything else and make you some profit.
That's
You know,
the
like support
hope,
itself.
yeah.
And the
I
fees
mean,
keep
up
going
front,
up.
the money's out of your pocket, but after so many years,
How much does it cost the patent process on average, do you think?
Is it industry specific?
I'd say the whole process, you know, that's like over 15 years, probably 20,000 at least, minimum.
And then
But
how mu-
that's including all the maintenance fees.
What about just to
issues.
get it issued? From start to
Well, to
getting it
get
issued?
pending, say 5,000 on a managed technology.
And then how much does it cost between pending to the time it's granted?
You know, it can vary, depends on how much work has to be done in between.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's no work that needs to be done, sometimes a lot.
And do you know,
But I would say, you know, you could add a couple thousand on average.
can you generally guess accurately if there's gonna need to be subsequent work, or if it's not gonna require it, or is it just a surprise to
You
you?
can do your own research up front and you try to guess what the patent office is gonna
Mhm.
throw at you.
But can you, I mean, just you, cause you've been doing this for so long, do you have a pretty good gut?
Yeah, you get a sense for it. Although you can get surprises, but, you know, after doing a couple hundred of them, you get a feel for what flies and what doesn't.
Mhm.
And how they look at things and stuff, cause, you know, what we patent and what the inventor has for a product are not always the same thing. You know, we're trying to patent a concept, and the inventor has one version of the concept, and so what the inventor makes or sells is unrelated to the patent, because there's no legal requirement for you to make or sell the product in your patent. Patent is strictly a shield against competitors. That's the only function. So you're not gonna use the shield until you get competitors, and you're not gonna get competitors till you're commercially successful yourself,
That makes sense.
typically.
Roger, I'm gonna have to take off.
Okay, oh yeah,
But
it's pretty
thanks.
much the time.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting all of you.
Yeah.
I'll probably see you at another one.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.
So she lived the dream and then went back into corporate life?
Is there any more for me?
Unless someone else has got questions, I mean, the selling process we don't touch on enough, I think. Cause you know, vendors come in, they're focused on the product only, then they're focused on a patent,
Mhm.
and then it's kinda like a big void. And you know, like you two guys, you know, you're kinda like,
Well, I'm not a businessman, so, I mean,
it
so
is
it's
just,
all that stuff is new to me, I mean.
you know,
I'm
the
a
way I
designer.
see it, it's, you know, the best products aren't the most commercially successful, the best business people are the most commercially successful. And getting the patent and trademarks, to me, more straightforward and easy, but starting the business, there's millions of ways to do it,
Mhm.
right? I mean, the ways you sell, where you sell, how you mark up, how you package it, how you design it, how you go after your customers. There's so many options,
Yeah.
and it's all very critically important to your success, and that's where the most trouble is.
And
Because,
under-
you know, how many products succeed that start with a very small percentage?
Understanding the industry, if you, you know, to your point, and some of them are so distributor dependent, and some of them you can sell direct even to like the retailers or the dealers, and it's easy. But, you know, you've got multiple distributors, and some will work hard for you and some won't. And identifying what you need from a distributor
Yeah, you
and
know,
picking that right
partnering
distributor,
up with
right.
the right people, it seems like it's super critical.
Yeah, it really is. And
And it can tank you if it's done wrong, too.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there are some distributors that'll go ahead and, you know, I mean, I would just say, they didn't ask for exclusivity, did they?
Pardon?
Did they ask for exclusivity when they took your product?
They tried, but.
But you didn't give it to 'em?
Yeah, there's no way. You can't do that.
Yeah, because they'll take it and then they'll just park it on the side if they think it's competing with something that, you know, they're happy with. They'll lock you out that way. And
And how do
that's
you deal
pretty
with
scary.
distributors, I mean, if they're carrying competing products?
If they're carrying the competing products and they're willing to sell the competing products, and a lot of times they are, the important thing really to me is getting your hands on those folks, the access to those folks that are going into the stores and selling it to the stores, so that they believe that your product is better than those competitive products. And then they'll actually point out what those differences are, especially if it's a premium priced product. If you've got a price advantage, it's not nearly as important, because they'll go ahead and push your product anyway. But if you're expensive, you need to give them an idea of why it's worth it.
I know, probably told this to Mike, but anyway, there's this very area, you know, Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Uh-huh.
You know, they used to be a store, right? They served ice cream and then they got into manufacturing and packaging. So distribution, you know, it's a
Those
very
kids have been
specialized
really good.
distribution. It has to go, you know, through the freezer trucks, and there's only a few companies that do this.
Right.
And so they start off and, you know, they're going through the same distributors as Haagen-Dazs, which is owned by Pillsbury.
Now it is, yeah.
So, you know, big conglomerate, and so everything was fine. I mean, Ben and Jerry's, they started doing better. And then the Haagen-Dazs people go, they're becoming a significant competitor and eating into our business. So still, the distributor was doing, you know, the majority of their work and profit was with Haagen-Dazs. So Haagen-Dazs told their distributor, you need to drop Ben and Jerry's elsewhere, I can't use you. This is playing hardball. And
Right.
patent don't help you in this stuff, but it's critically important. So the Ben and Jerry's guys, you know, they were like, God, what do we do? I mean, we can fight this legally, but it's just gonna be a mess and a lot of money and time. So they decided to kind of do a PR campaign, go to the court of public opinion.
Right.
And they did that advertising campaign of, what's the doughboy got against us? And they were shaming Haagen-Dazs and
Uh-huh.
Pillsbury on this distribution issue, because they would be sunk if they couldn't do it through this certain company, and it worked for them.
Yeah.
Actually, Pillsbury relented.
But you have to do it, because legally you can, you know. There are ways that you can limit what the distributor's gonna do with competitive products. But a lot of distributors won't play that way, though. You know,
Because they say, well, you know, it's more for us in total.
Right.
Right?
Right, and they wanna be able to offer to their customers what they think is the best portfolio, and they don't want any of their
Well,
vendors
I'm sure the
dictating the
distributor was
business.
happy carrying Haagen-Dazs and Ben and Jerry's.
Right.
But Haagen-Dazs said, you know, we're your major
Mhm.
customer,
Yeah,
and they started to play hardball with it.
and there's some distributors probably that would've folded, you know, well, it sounds like their distributor did fold. When
At
Haagen-Dazs
first,
told them that, yeah.
because it was a real threat to Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's,
Mhm.
you know, that's all being creative, you know, you run into an obstacle like that, and you gotta figure out an ingenious
Mhm.
way to deal with it.
Well, getting end users to want your product is the best way to
Yeah, but what is
get
it
over a
called?
lot of
Pull?
those hurdles. Exactly, it's
Yeah.
pull strategy. Yeah, 'cause then you don't have to just push it. Push strategy is hard. It's really, really hard. And if you're selling through distributors, you've got to push all the way through those distributors, get it on the retail shelf, and then you have to talk to the people who are working those retail stores so they understand what it is they're selling. If the package doesn't just make it clear. Those are a lot of people that you got to talk to, and if you're a small, even if you're a you know, company with hundreds of employees, there's way more people to talk to than you've got employees who can talk to them. If you can reach the general public and get word out that way, they do a lot of the talking for you. Don't they?
Appreciate it.
Not at all. Enjoyed it very much.
Good
guys.
luck. I'm very impressed that you've got that out the door, and